Two junk journals in two totally different styles, created simultaneously. Welcome to another episode of this series here on my channel, in which I want to show you that you can transfer any inspiration that you got from somewhere to your own junk journal or other papercraft project in your very own unique style. In today's episode, we are going to talk about color bridges and style breaks and also style bridges, if that is a word. What if you have a junk journal that you've made for yourself or bought somewhere, and then you find ephemera, let's say from a travel, for example, that you want to put into that journal, but this ephemera that you found has a totally different style, totally different colors. Is it possible to include that into your journal that has a specific style without destroying it? Hi there, this is Luisa Heinzel. Welcome to this video and welcome to my channel Junk Journal Art. Today we have two finished journals in front of us. Isn't that crazy? That's the first time within this series. I've realized that when I recorded this video in German, that this is the first time that you see finished journals on my desk. So today, for this video, I'm going to do a voiceover, so please excuse that the things that I do with my hands are probably not the same what you hear from my voice, but that has some reasons why I did it like that. In the other videos, you have seen me creating and talking at the same time, but for this video, I've decided to make a voiceover to let the journals not become too bulky, because I want to sell these journals in my Etsy shop. And what I'm going today is like adding more stuff. And if I had done that a second time for this English video, it would have become too bulky and too much of that what I've added. So that's the reason why I have decided to make the voiceover for this video. So I hope that's okay for you. I want to show you what I have done without you, because there are some things that I have added in the meantime that are like those little tiny details, you know, some finishing touches. I have done that for the clean journal that you can see on the left side as always, and for the grungy journal that you can see here on the right side, as in the other videos as well. I have added some white splatters to some of the collages that we've made, to some of the pockets that we've made together. And if you perhaps think, what is she talking about? You can find a playlist with all of the videos that are belonging to this series linked down below. In the description box, you can follow this series step by step from start to finish if you want, and if you want to craft along with me and make your own journal in your very own unique style. So what I have done here is really like, yeah, those, do you know this like meditative process when you are really close to the end of your journal making process? There are those pages that you see for the first time. I mean, after we have sewn in the signatures into the cover, we can see the journal for the first time in its real condition, or how can I say that? And then you see those tiny areas where you think, okay, here's something missing, there's something missing, some splatters, or what I have done here, some charms. I have just taken some bulb pins and I have attached some beads, some charms, some tiny things that were laying around here in my craft room, where I thought that they can fit the style and the colors of each of the journals. For the clean journal, I have of course stayed in this like more muted color palette. So the cover gave me a really good orientation, I would say, for what I wanted to add to those little like charms and dangles. As you can see, we had this really like colorful fabric on the inside of the cover. Those are colors that are not so much in the color palette that we've chosen for the clean journal. There's this greenish color, and because of that, I have decided that I want to add some beads in that color as well. So you can see some of them on those little dangles. One of them is here a little bit hidden, but here it is. I wanted to have this color from the fabric to be shown on the outside when you look from the side to the journal as well. And that color also fits the colors in the ephemera pack really, really well. And it's also on some of the pages of the junk journal pages from my printable. You know, I have used my Steamy Floral Smoke digital printable paper pack for that. And I wanted to grab those colors to make it really harmonious. If you've never heard about that paper pack, you can find it linked down below this video as well, of course. I have done the same thing for the grungy journal, so let me quickly show you that. Here I did it a tiny little bit differently because I didn't have charms and things in the right color that would match the color palette. So I have taken some silver charms, some golden charms, and that stuff, everything that I liked, that I had, and then I have colored that with some acrylic paint and additionally some alcohol ink to get the right color. I have stayed in this like greenish color that we also got from forest moss that we have included into the color palette for the grungy journal, and I think that that fits the best. It's a little bit like this metalish greenish color. I really don't know how to explain that in English, but yeah, I think it fits really well. Also to the cover. The cover also has relatively much of this like vintage greenish color. And what am I doing here? I'm searching for something and I don't know for what. Here. Yeah, now I know it. I'm so sorry. So here there's some purple that we got from the oxidation of the oxide sprays that we've added in the very beginning to the pages. And that's the reason why I also chose some like purplish, pinkish, tiny beads to get this little accent of that as well. So that's it. And now I want to discuss something that I think is a question in the mind of many people. The first thing that I want to mention is, you ask me very, very often, Louise, what do you do with your junk journals once you've finished them? Why do we see you working in your journals not so much? Yeah, you know from my channel, I don't write in my journals. I don't use them as a diary or something like that. There are only a few journals that you will see on my channel that I use for myself. And the reason is very simple. These journals go into my Etsy shop and I sell them. And of course, I can't write about my day in those journals and then put them into my Etsy shop. That would be a little bit weird. That's the reason why you see me working in my journals not so often. What you see is, you see me embellishing them, you see me playing with different things, and that's also for the journals that I keep for myself, something that I really like to do. I really enjoy that. I'm not so the writer kind of person. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy writing a few things in specific journals for myself to keep them as a memory. But the main thing for me about junk journaling is, and what the joy is about, is this playing with paper, playing with embellishments, with die cuts, with paint and that stuff. And for me, writing is not so much part of my junk journaling process. But of course, that's different for everyone. But today, I want to take something, and that's this thing here. This is a printable made by Barbara at 49 Dragonflies. This is a relatively new set in her shop. She has managed it to make a dragonfly printable. Can you believe that? We have talked about that so often. I mean, She is called 49 Dragonflies. Yeah, her channel and everything, her whole brand is called 49 Dragonflies. And she always said to me, Louise, it's a little bit embarrassing. I don't have a dragonfly kit in my shop. I need a dragonfly paper. And now she has it and she made it and she has totally outdone herself with this kit. Of course, I will link that down below for you so that you can check that out. And as you can see, this kit here, I will quickly flip through the pages so that you can get an imagination about the colors and that stuff. This kit has a totally different color palette than both of my journals. It is like, yeah, totally not what I would have included into the journals when I look at the color palette and the style. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. What if you have something, for example, from a travel, or you find something like a digital paper pack, or you get gifted something, and you want to include that into your journal, but the color palette is totally different. The style is completely different. Is that possible? Of course it is, otherwise this video wouldn't exist. So I want to show you that, how to include things that seem to not fit into your journal. You can imagine that you go to a holiday and you find ephemera, for example, like tickets or flyers or things from an art exhibition or something like that, and you want to include that into your journal. I want to like construct this a little bit for this video because I don't have that specific ephemera that doesn't fit. I don't have something from a traveler and I don't want to include something from my personal collection into those journals because they go into my shop. That's a little bit of a problem. So I want to like construct that a little bit. And for that, I am going to use Barbara's paper and I will cut out my own ephemera from this paper. And you can see I have printed the pages, which are originally full-size pages, to DIN A4 so that 2 pages of her printable are on one sheet. Yeah, normally they are full-sized paper sheets. Do you know what I mean? Printable sheets. Holy moly. But you can, of course, print them out like this as well. And here I'm just going through them again and I'm checking which of the colors are really like crazy for both of the journals. Yeah, so as I said, I want to construct a really extreme situation so that you can follow my thoughts behind that really, really well. So for example, the flowers on the pages are really like, yeah, they are really like out of the color palette totally. This here, this green would fit. I would say this is a little bit like forest moss. Also this grungy parts, this brown and that stuff, that would fit really well. So we are not going to take this page that I have here, but something that is really crazy. For example, those pink flowers, they would be a really good example for what I'm trying to do here at the moment. And the flowers there on the top as well with this like orange and pink would be really like a challenge, especially for the clean journal. That's going to become a challenge. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I will put my journals out of the way to be able to have some space for cutting myself some ephemera. So here you can see I have cut some tags and some journaling cards out of the paper, and I will use 3 of those for the grungy journal to include them, and 3 of them will go into the clean journal so that you can have 3 different examples for every journal. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to search for pages where I want to put the ephemera. If this was something that I brought from a travel, for example, I would do exactly the same thing. Yeah, imagine I have this journal already on my desk and I want to include something that I found somewhere. The first thing is to find a place where that can fit size-wise and perhaps also already a little bit like color-wise, even if the colors of those things are totally different. I don't like to have my ephemera next to me while I think about colors and that stuff because, you know, when you can't see it, then it's a little bit of a problem. And I also like to choose the right size of the pockets for my ephemera. Also, looking at what I already perhaps have in my pockets. Yeah, there are some ephemera pieces that are already in this journal, like journaling papers, like little tags or little bits and bobs, you know what I mean. And I like to see where size-wise the ephemera piece that I have could fit in. And that's what I'm doing here. And I'm also trying to put this like not matching ephemera not into the same signature. Yeah, I like to put that through the journal so that one piece is here, one piece is there, and that they are not too close to each other. That can also help to let it, yeah, like flow into the rest of the style and the rest of the color palette if you don't put everything into one signature. So let's start with this card and let's put that into the grungy journal. So that was a little bit confusing, I guess. That's because I'm doing this voiceover here. I've just taken back the grungy journal here. This is the grungy journal, what you can see here. And I have this journaling card made out of Barbara's paper. And here I'm checking what is going on with the colors. This brown on her card is really like biting. The browns on the left page here, can you see that? The brown on her card is relatively reddish, and the brown that I have on my page there is like a little bit, also a little bit red, but it's yellowish as well. And that's like two dogs who don't like each other. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to really put the paper on top of the other pages to see what's going on, to see how that could fit, what could I do. And here I'm thinking about making a base for the journaling card in the colors of the left page of this journal. The card is relatively flimsy because I have printed that out on 110 GSM paper to be able to back that with something else or leave it like it is. I really like this variation of thickness of ephemera in my journals as well. So I'm thinking, what if we take a card or something like that and back this journaling card with the card and make a little frame around the card in the colors that we have here on the left. That is Vintage Photo and Ground Espresso. So let's try that. For that, we need a card, of course. So here we go. I have taken this like ledger card. It's not a paper. It's relatively, yeah, the thickness is like scrapbooking paper, I would say. And I have taken out my sprays here. Vintage Photo oxide spray, ground espresso, spray stain, and ground espresso oxide spray to be able to spritz to the frame of the card. I don't need ink in the middle of the card because that will be covered up by Barbara's paper later. So I'm mainly focusing on the frame with those colors. Here I've already dried it and I'm trying out if this can work now. And for me, this could already work like it is. Yeah, I am like this. I like to play with colors. Yeah, and I like to include really bam colors into my journals, like those colors that are popping out, like a highlight, like a contrast as well. I like to, what is the word? Provozieren. In German, it's provozieren. What is the English word? Okay, so I've asked my translator. The word that I was searching for is provoke. Yeah, I like to provoke with colors. I hope that that was a sentence now. That makes sense. But I want to show you that we can do this thing with the colors even better and that we can look for several different things to make this like more harmonious than it is now, even if it would work like it is now. So when I put the card into the pocket, I can see that I can see relatively much of the background of Barbara's card. So what if we try to get something that is on the card to the left side of the journal to connect both pages with each other? And the main color for my eye on the card is this like sandy orangey background color that has some elements that nearly look like rust. I don't know how Barbara has made that, but here I'm taking out my swatches that I have made for my products that I have from Ranger, because Ranger is what I'm working with the most. And I'm trying to find colors that match the background. So, of course, if you don't have Ranger products, you can do that with any other medium that you have. Perhaps you have swatches of your mediums as well, then please take them out. Now it's the right and perfect time to take them out and to find colors that match your ephemera. If you don't have swatches, you can of course take the tubes or bottles or whatever your mediums are in and take that to your table and compare that to the things that you have in your journal. But swatches are really helpful, of course, for such a problem, or I don't want to call it a problem, but you know what I mean, for what we are doing here. If you want to know how I made those swatches, then you can also find a playlist about that on my channel. It's linked down below this video for you as well. So here I can see that there are some parts in the camera. It looks really strange. I just realized that the rusty hinge color is like really bam, but it is in the background of Barbara's paper. And tea dye is also a color from Ranger that matches this background really well. In this screen, it looks totally different. Not different. It looks a little bit strange because the orange seems to not match. But please believe me, when you go closer to the card, you can see those tiny details that Barbara has in her paper. And then you can see this orange. So here I'm thinking about what I could include with those colors, and I'm thinking about page tabs. For me, page tabs are always a great solution for those color problems that we might have while we want to add ephemera to the journal. So I've just checked if I have some space to add the page tabs, but to be honest, you can add them everywhere where you want. Yeah, you can make them as big and as small as you want and add them wherever you want. So let's take some fabric and let's take out tea dye and rusty hinge and let's color some fabric with those colors. So I'm just taking my ink and putting that to my acrylic block, adding some water, and then I want to dip the fabric into this mixture of ink and water to dye the fabric. Of course, if you have fabric that already has the right color, please take that. I couldn't find anything that I had in my stash that would have had the right colors. And I also, yeah, when I say that now, you will think I already know that. I like to experiment with colors and I like to get myself really deep into finding out which color it could be. Yeah, I also like to walk around, for example, if I'm on holiday with my hubby or I'm outside for a walk, I always talk in this Ranger color palette names. Yeah, there is driving a car in front of my eyes and I say to my hubby, who isn't my hubby, oh, look, the car is Uncharted Mariner. The car is tea dye. The car is whatever. Yeah, I am in my head. There are those names of the Ranger colors. And for me, it's really much fun to get deeper into those colors and not only what I can do with them, but also get this knowledge about the colors and know the names, know which color it is. And for me, this step is really, really, it's wonderful. So now we have the colors of the background. And what I also can see here, what Barbara did with the printable is she has added a really like fragments of writing to the background. There is a little like postage stamp on the bottom, but around the flowers there's some writing. And I thought perhaps we can stamp to the fabric that we've just dyed with the colors. And I have chosen this stamp here. This is by Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. And look at the writing here. That could look really, really great on the fabric, I guess. It's like the same style that Barbara has on her paper as well. The size of the font is really similar. It's really like tiny. And also on Barbara's paper, it's like a little bit broken. And if we stamp not completely clearly, we could reach perhaps a similar style with those stamps from Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. So I'm taking jet black StazOn ink to be able to stamp on the paper. I'm so sorry, the fabric. And here I already have done it, so I think you know how to stamp on fabric. Oh my goodness, fabric, Louise, not paper. And I have just torn some pieces to then realize that I have torn it off from the wrong piece of fabric, but that really doesn't matter. These little guys will now fit to nearly any spot that you have on this like double spread. So I'm just thinking where I want to put one of these. And the cool thing about page tabs is, I mean, it's a little bit weird because when I make the journal and I place a page tab somewhere, is it really a page tab? I mean, is this now really a page tab? It's called page tab in the junk journal like language, but do you really use it as a page tab? I mean, do you categorize the things that are in your journal? I think in the most cases, those like page tabs are more a decoration, more something that is like, yeah, a color bridge. It can be a style bridge as well. Then it is a page tab to be really used as that. Yeah, so for me, page tabs are decoration. And of course, the new owner of this journal can decide what to do with those if he or she wants to categorize the journal and make different categories for writing or something. But in this stage, for me, it's a decoration. And here I'm in the middle of the process of changing my mind about the page tab there on the top on the right page, because I just think I can take a piece of fabric and glue it here. Look, then it breaks this area between the pocket and the background, and it looks really nice there. And we have a little bit more of the color that we've just made for dyeing the fabric. So I really enjoy this place there for this little piece of fabric. And now we have something like a bridge between the card, the right page of the journal, and the left page of the journal, only with these both pieces of fabric. But we still have this blue on the card. Those flowers on Barbara's card are really popping out on the card, and you can see them even if the card is inside of the pocket. So what can we do with this blue? And I came to the idea to add a postage stamp or several postage stamps, because on the card, Barbara has added something like a postage stamp as well. It's relatively abstract, but it is a postage stamp. So I have taken out this little album that I have made for myself, to store my postage stamps, and I'm searching for some that have, yeah, approximately the color of the flower on Barbara's card. There were many questions about this postage stamp storage album. There's also a playlist on my channel available where I show you how I created this album. I have taken an old photo album. I have taken out the pages and put those pages in, which you can see here with those little pockets where I can store my postage stamps. So if you want to see a tutorial on how to make such an album, please check out the playlist linked below. And I'm realizing that my blue postage stamps are not really the blue that Barbara has on the card in the German video. I said, Barbara, what have you done with this blue? There's no postage stamp available in this world that has this color. But I'm just kidding, of course. Yeah, Barbara can use whatever color she wants. But this was really a challenge to find something in this color. But you can see in a second that it's also possible to include a color even if you don't have exactly the same colors with like postage stamps or fabric or whatever, because our eyes are like, you know, they are really flexible when they look at colors, I would think. So let's try to explain that. I have this like more petrol postage stamp here. I really like that they're on this piece of fabric. It gives it a little like frame and the colors work really well together. But this is relatively dark, isn't it? And it's relatively turquoise compared to the color that we have on Barbara's card. This one here would be way more harmonious. It's like, this is nearly the same color, and because of the distance that's between the postage stamp and the card, the eye can't really see anymore that it's not exactly the same color. That's what I meant when I said our eyes are like flexible. I'm playing around here a little bit with the position, because here on the left side I think there's also a great position for a postage stamp. We also have an irregular triangle with those 3 postage stamps. Barbara, are you proud? We've learned so that's not English, so much from you about irregular triangles. I'm always absolutely amazed when I see how she is using that in her creations, and I'm always trying to remember that when I make a journal by myself. And I think here this triangle rule works really well, and it connects the left page and the right page. Of course, there would be many other possibilities than postage stamps. You could also use tiny scraps, or I think buttons would work really well as well. Or perhaps you have other things that are tiny and that have the right color. Yeah, that doesn't have to be postage stamps. So the next thing that I want to try is I want to connect the pages even more, because when you look at this double spread from a little bit more far away, then you will realize that those blues are like a little bit extracted. They are like fallen to the page for no reason. It looks a little bit weird, but I want to try to include those postage stamps a little bit better by adding some more blue, but not in such a big format like the postage stamps are. I want to do that by adding some splatters. For that, I have chosen Broken China and Uncharted Mariner Distress Paint. I've just put a little bit of paint to my acrylic paint plate, and mixed that with some water to be able to get really tiny splatters. And this, to me, is like a part of this making a color bridge. Yeah, because those blues are really like popping out from the pages. And with the splatters, we get something like a color bridge. I don't know if that is a professional word or, yeah, I don't know if that word even exists, but for me, it's a really good like symbol for what I'm trying here. I want to have a bridge between the pages. And that is, of course, something that you can reach relatively easily by splattering using the same colors that you've just chosen, in this case, those blues. And while my splatters were drying, I had a coffee in the meantime. Here it is. And why am I showing you my coffee? Yeah, I don't want you to be jealous about my coffee, but I want to encourage you to make a break, not only because of drying time, but also because it's helpful if you step back from your project for a while and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. And that's what happened to me here. When I looked at the page and then I flipped through some other pages, I realized that this blue is still really, really massive. And it's massive, but subtle at the same time, even if I think that subtle is in this case not the right word. It's only here now. Do you know what I mean? And there are those like 3 areas where this blue is really massive. When I flip further through the journal, I can't see the blue anymore. And this is something that has to do with your emotions, I guess, as well. For me, this is here. It is good that it is here. I could manage to get this color bridge, but in this case, it's like weird. Perhaps it's weird because it's not enough. That is something, yeah, that is really like personal taste, but I want to try something here. I found these cards here. As you can see, they matched this rusty color on Barbara's card really well. This blue is like Uncharted Mariner, and there's also a lighter blue that reminds me to Broken China. And I thought perhaps we can get this spread like really blue. Sometimes adding more of a color that is popping out can help to get this whole thing more harmonious. But as I said, that's totally up to you. It's totally personal taste if that works for you or not. But I want to make 2 more cards for this spread. Here you can already see them because we have a pocket on the left side and also a pocket there on the right. So why not use those to put something in to make this even more harmonious? And now I think with this more blue, it is more harmonious than it was before. The postage stamps now get more into this context, and the same is with this flower, I think. Here on the next page, where we have this little tag, I think that the background of Barbara's paper already fits really well into the rest. Look at the other colors that we have. It's relatively harmonious already. I had a little thought about backing this tag with this blue paper as well, but then I changed my mind because I thought the background is already relatively harmonious, but the only thing that doesn't fit here really are those colors of the flowers on Barbara's paper, this blue and the red. And then I thought perhaps I can also show you a way to make this like really simple and in a really short time. If you have found a place where the tag fits, or let's say the most of the colors of the tag are fitting, then you can also add some tinier ephemera like those both tags that I've just added into the pocket or this little tuck spot to get a little bit more interest for the eye, and then just use splatters in the colors that you have on the ephemera that were not in your color palette in the beginning. Do you know what I mean? So here I'm taking Uncharted Mariner for the blue, and I'm also splattering a little bit, only a tiny little bit, to the other pages. As you can see, they are different sizes, so that I get this blue to some other pages as well, that it's not so alone there. And then I'm searching for a color that can fit this red on Barbara's paper. I was not totally sure what to use in that moment, to be honest, because this looked to me a little bit like aged mahogany, but I don't have the distress paint of that color. But I thought, okay, what else could I use to make some splatters? I mean, that doesn't have to be acrylic paint for splattering, yeah? And then I came to the idea to use my Distress Oxide ink pad, and I've just put a little bit of the ink to my acrylic block, added a tiny little bit of water to get the splatters really intensive. If you add too much water, in my eyes, on a colored paper, the color of the ink can change a lot because it gets a little bit too translucent in my eyes, because we are using two different mediums here. Yeah, the Uncharted Mariner paint is really intensive and it's opaque, and when you use the Distress Oxide ink and you have too much water, it can get too translucent for me, but that's, you know, personal taste. But that's a way, just splattering, that is not so time consuming and it works as well. So let's go to the clean journal now. That was really a challenge for me, to be honest, but challenges are good. So let's take this card first. And as you can see, the background is like really outstanding. Not only because it's a great background that Barbara has made, but it's also really not matching the color palette of this clean journal. And also the flowers are like a little bit, yeah, weird. Why am I talking about the backside here? It's white. Let me explain that. Perhaps you have something from, let's say, a travel that you got and you don't want to cover the backside. Imagine this was a flyer or something and you want to leave the information of this flyer on the back, or you want a journal on the back. Then it's perhaps not so good to back the card with something else, because then this information could get lost, or it will get lost if you put something to the back. Another solution for getting a color bridge or a style bridge could, of course, also be to put a second piece of ephemera in another color into the pocket. That doesn't have to be attached to the ephemera piece itself. So here I'm trying that, and I'm realizing that my pocket has not the right size for holding this blue card that I am having here. I'm just trying to figure out if it can be held by the pocket or if it will fall out. For me, it's really important when I make a journal that everything has its place in a way that it can't fall out. So here I'm struggling a little bit, and at the same time I'm thinking about adding this little tab there on the top to have this color from the background on Barbara's card as well. Sometimes I'm also mixing what I'm doing because my thoughts are a little bit mixing. So I'm still not really happy with the position of this ephemera. But then I found this tag. I had that left over. Here I already had backed it with some scrapbooking paper that I also have in the journal. And here I'm trying out what happens if I add more to the pocket. That can also be a trick to see what do I already have, and if something is popping out as much as the colors, this blue and the red on Barbara's card do, then perhaps it can be helpful to add more. That sounds totally weird, because you could think that can be even more confusing for the eye, but sometimes it can help to balance that. And especially with this tag that I've just taken from my table, it calms it down for me, because the pattern on the tag the top tag there is the same like on the printable paper. Yeah, you can also add some things that you already have on the page to get more of that to the page to make the other thing more matching. I don't know how I can explain that, but sometimes this like overloading something can really help the eye to understand the page. I know that for some people, looking at those overloaded pages can be a problem. And I think you have to figure that out if it works for you or not, and if that works for your own journal or not. I know that there are people who say when there's too much going on a page or in a pocket, when I have too much, then I'm overwhelmed. And I totally get that. Yeah, that's a thing that is like really how you feel the page. And this is also one of the most difficult videos within this series because this is like my personal feeling about that. And it can happen that it's totally different for you. But I'm trying to let you come into my brain anyway, even if your style and your way of doing this can be completely different. Perhaps you can get some tricks from this, even if it's not the same as your process is. So as you could see, I've changed the position of the ephemera. I was happy with having more, but I have changed the position to get a better pocket that has more room for those ephemera pieces. And now here on this page, I'm first thinking about the material that I have used for making these journaling papers. As you can see on the left, there's this bigger pocket. On the right, there's this triangular tuck spot. And the papers that already were there, that I had put in there, are relatively thin. So the first thing that I want to decide here is about how I want to have the card that comes from Barbara's paper. Do I want to have something on the back? I have only this left over from my blue paper, so I can't use something for backing the card. But another thing is, when you have already thinner papers in the pockets, why not go with a thinner paper for the card as well? Yeah, a journaling card for me doesn't have to be stiff. So I decided that I want to have no backing for this card, but just leave it like it is. And then I want to use those leftovers that I had from this blue paper that I've used before on the other pages. And I just want to make a little like strip on the left pocket there, because perhaps you can see where the sewing is on the pocket. I have already attached a piece of scrapbooking paper there to make the pocket more sturdy so that you can get that paper in and out like better and that it's more sturdy. And we also have this flower on the bottom, and I wanted to have this blue strip next to the other one there to don't confuse the eye with the arrangement with this pattern, but to have this strip in another color. You could also reach this effect by using some washi tape, or of course you can also, if you don't like those strips, you can also use some scraps or something. Yeah, you can use collage fodder that you have perhaps made during the process of making the journal, or collage fodder that you already have in your stash or whatever. But I also like to use up the things that are on my desk. When I have a special paper, for example, this blue one, and I have tiny pieces left over, yeah, that's great collage fodder as well. I can use that for some interest in future projects, but I also like to use that up while I make the journal. Here I have also added this tiny piece of this blue on the bottom to create this illusion that this blue goes from the top to the bottom of the page and is broken by this flower that is more to the bottom. Yeah, it's not in the middle, this flower. Do you know what I mean? So that I get this connection, I've added this tiny bit there. And then I had a leftover of this blue paper, and that I want to place on the right side of the page to this little tuck spot there. But in the other direction. So the strip on the left is vertical, and now I'm adding the strip to the right horizontally. And I also break that up by adding a tiny little label with a number to have this on the left side, really like this part of the pocket. And on the right, I want to have the color, but not in this like strip look. Do you know what I mean? So now this is broken by this little label that is just a stamp that I have stamped to a leftover piece of book page, and that I have cut that out to be able to have that in the right size there. So let's go on to the next page and let's see what we can do here. So on this page, we have this card, and we have already two other pieces of ephemera in this pocket. And when we look at this, we can immediately see that this blue of the dragonfly is the thing that stands out here on the page. It's something that doesn't fit into the rest. So perhaps we can do a similar trick like we've done on the page before, and first make a frame around the card in the same color, this blue. And I'm using what I have left over from the other page. That can also be a trick to use the same material, the same kind of paper, the same pattern of paper, for example, throughout the journal. I'm also adding a little label here on the bottom so that it looks not so empty there. And then this card can go into the pocket here. And as you can see, I already have two other pieces of ephemera there in the pocket. There's this scrapbooking paper with the numbers behind the dragonfly card, and there's this like ledger card in the background, if you will. So I like to have my ephemera in a specific place in the pockets. I like to arrange those three things that they are pleasing for the eye when they are in the pocket. The pocket is not only a storage thing for me. So I'm looking at this arrangement of the ephemera, and then I'm deciding what I want to do. And I think we can also get a connection between the things with the help of a stamp. So I want to try to not go with a color for this like color bridge, but with a stamp for something like a style bridge. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I want to try to connect the card in the pocket with the help of this stamp. I'm placing it upside down so that the writing that we have on the stamp there gets mainly to the card, and that I don't confuse the eye with having the flower directly next to the dragonfly. I want to have the flower upside down so that the blossom of the flower is on the bottom of the page. I'm pressing this here like freehand to the page. And here, to be honest, when I recorded the German video, I was really happy that it worked. The journal is relatively bulky at that point because of the ephemera, and it's not so easy to stamp there, but I also didn't want to have a like really clear impression of the stamp, but I want to have this connection. And what do you think? Is the card connected to the page now because half of the stamp is on the card and half of the stamp is on the pocket? I think so, even if we haven't used this blue yet. But we can, of course, do the same trick with the splatters here as well and add some splatters in blue. In this case, I'm using Uncharted Mariner again to get a little bit of this color from the dragonfly to the pages and the pocket as well. And what I also like to do, and that's the reason why I think about the order of the ephemera that I have in the pocket, I like to splatter over the other cards as well. You can see that here I'm trying to connect the cards by splattering over them, and that's the reason why I place them in a specific position, yeah, so that I can see what I do and that the splatters don't disappear when the order of the ephemera is changing, perhaps. So that can be, of course, a trick as well to get the page connected. I want to leave this here like it is for this moment because I think it's already enough. The page is relatively calm now, I would say, and really harmonious. And I'm also going to add some splatters, same reason as before, to get this blue a little bit more like balanced. So then let's come to the last page where I had chosen this pink flower from Barbara's paper. I think when I look at this now, this would be okay for me if this was my journal and I want to put something into this pocket. As I said, I like to play with colors and I like this provoking with colors. So for me, this would be okay. But what if you think that it's too popping out? It's too bam. The first thought could be using the color that we had before, that was Uncharted Mariner, mainly for the splattering. So you could check if the color that you have chosen before could match this color that is a totally different color that you had before. So check if the blue fits the pink. In this case, I would say that would be possible. I totally love the combination of Uncharted Mariner and this pink. I also have this little leftover. I could also make a little page tab to the card, to this tag or to another card or to the page itself. And that would totally work for me. But for this video, I also want to give you some more ideas and I don't want to do the same thing on every page, of course. So let's try to find some pink things that we could include to the page and let's see if that can work with this flower here that Barbara has on the card, on the paper. So let's first find a color that matches the colors of those flowers. And for me, that is worn lipstick. I think worn lipstick fits the best, even if it's not 100% the same color like on Barbara's paper, but we can make that work. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go through my stash and I want to see if I have ephemera that has the color of worn lipstick or a really similar color that is really close to worn lipstick. There's something new in my craft room organization. A part of that you can see here. I have decided that I want to organize all of my colored ephemera like the Ranger color palette is organized. Yeah, so I have a new, no, the shelf is not new. I have taken out the things that were in my shelf and I've put new things into that, and that are those little storage boxes. One of them you can see here. I've labeled each of those with a label and a swatch so that I can see the color and read the name. And in those boxes, I have organized my ephemera and I have put, everything that matches worn lipstick in this case into this little box so that I then can easily go to my shelf. I know I need something in the color worn lipstick, and in this box I will find everything that could fit. For example, this tea bag label, it has not exactly the same color like worn lipstick, but it is relatively close to worn lipstick, and it fits better to worn lipstick than any other color of the Ranger color palette. So that's the reason why it is in this little box. Please don't be confused. I will do a separate video in the future about this organization and about this idea, and I will go into detail what I thought about that when I did it in another video. It would be too long for this, but I wanted to explain why I have all of this like ephemera in the same color here. So this is relatively easy for me now to find. That's the reason why I did it. And I have chosen now this index card that I want to put to this little tuck spot there on the left so that we have a little bit of this pink color on the left page to get this color bridge between the pages and to get a connection between the pages. And then I thought this paper that I have here could match the flower also really well, exactly in exactly the color it is, or it has. It's perfect like it is, so that's what I'm trying to say. So it can also help to just put more things into the pockets that have the same color to get this connection. And what I also like is to think about those tiny things on the one hand, and the material that my ephemera is made out of on the other hand. And one of those tinier things is this tea bag label. I really like to include those things that you know from your daily life into your journal. And tea bag labels are, of course, available in different colors. And I also like those more vintagey thingies like tea bag labels. So you know what I mean? There are many of those that are really vintage, but these, on the first glance, when you see them, you think, ooh, it's pink. Yeah, it's a really like crazy color. Can I use that? But here you can see you can use it. Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is those tiny things are like those accents, those things that make a journal interesting, even if it's something where you perhaps first thought when you had it in your hands that it can't fit in your journal, but you can make it work. You only have to try to, yeah, get this color bridges and those style bridges, and sometimes also a style break, of course, can help to make it harmonious. That sounds weird, but perhaps you have seen here that it can work. I wanted to break the label there on the bottom a little bit because it was, yeah, too boring for me. So I've added a tiny little strip of this fabric that we have dyed in the very beginning. And I've also added this tiny little label where I had stamped a little tiny stamp from Tim Holtz. And now I think this is really harmonious. On the left side, we have this orangey beige paper that fits really well to Barbara's paper background as well. And with the fabric on the bottom, we have this triangle. Really cool, I think. I want to add some splatters here as well, but this time I will go with white splatters because I already have a lot of white splatters on the left side there where the pocket is. I've already splattered to that flower on the printable there. So it can also help to add more of what you already have. Meaning, when you see you have so many white splatters already, then go on with the white splatters on those pieces that you have just added to the page. Do you know what I mean? You don't need one lipstick colored splatters now. You can add them, of course, yes, but you can also do that and add that what you already had before. Here on the top, you can see there's this hole because this whole pocket is in the shape of a tag. And here I'm just thinking if I want to make a hole, and that can also be, of course, a thing that can look interesting. Look here, if I would poke a hole there and if I would add a little ribbon, that could be really cute as well. And it could help to get this color, yeah, like even more harmonious into the page. But imagine I would take a ribbon in the color Worn Lipstick and I would add it to this hole there. Then there would be this one pink piece that peeks out on the top of the journal. And I have decided that I don't want that for this journal. If this was my personal journal, I would perhaps have done it. But in this case, I didn't want to overload this page with the pink. Don't think that I still hate pink. I got friend with pink. I really love pink in the meantime. If you follow my channel for a longer time, you know that I had problems with pink, but now I really like it and I really like to use it and play around with it. That's not the problem. But for the whole, yeah, for the whole feeling about this journal, it was too much to me to have this like pink thingy peeking out on the top. That's the reason why I haven't done it. But of course, that's also a possibility to use the holes in the tag text that you have and put some things there that peek out. And when you have the journal and it's closed and you can see all of the things that are peeking out, that can also help the eye to get into this color palette of the journal. Do you know what I mean? So that's it for today. You will see 2 more videos within this series. That's a flip through of the clean journal and a flip through of the grungy journal. And then this series is finished. I hope you could get some tips and tricks from this video, and I hope you will enjoy the following 2 videos of this series as well, of course. And I wish you a very, very happy day, happy crafting, and see you the next time. Bye bye.